There's the sort of no-code workflow approach of bypassing a TMS. There's the other idea that, let's just say, all of the content management systems, whatever they are, Adobe Experience Manager, Contentful, GitHub, Zendesk, they just all have like a native GPT-4 integration, which they all do now have. And so you just flip those on all of your different systems, and you don't need like a centralized hub for translation technology. Does that work or does it not work?
I would go back to those linguistic assets that are so valuable to your terminology, to your translation memory, that whether it will still be so valuable in 5 years' time, I'm not sure. But right now, your TM is valuable for basically educating your chat GPT or your large language model or being brought into it. Again, it's the risk of translating something from one of those tools that could turn out to be extremely generic and not part of your brand. So what are the risks and how do you mitigate those risks? But I think the biggest learning from this, from the availability of translation tools in these platforms, is that it's easy to use and people want things that are easy to use. And language is something that so many more people are talking about now, because it has been made so much easier to obtain through the Gen AI tools.
I would absolutely agree. The risk really with using, what's built in, maybe you've got something in SAP, something in Zendesk, and then something else in GitHub, is that fragmentation of perspective and view. And it has some potential implications. So one of the areas where I think TMS could thrive is as the one point of truth for enterprise content that is otherwise siloed off into repositories. The TMS actually could be the only place that has insight into all of those and the only place that touches it. Now, I haven't seen the TMS providers capitalize on this yet, but I think Allison once was telling me about one of her former employers. They did a study where, what was it, 35% or something of all content that was written had been written before and couldn't be found.
Yes, sales and marketing content in particular, because there was no way of tracking what had been translated and people didn't know where to look for it and they couldn't find it, so they did it again. Another example would be around the consistency in translation, where a product description was translated using different terminology to the actual delivered product packaging or use documentation. And people actually sent that product back because they did not believe they had received what they'd purchased. And so that's one of the dangers of inconsistency if different parts of the enterprise are translating things through different processes.
So if a TMS could actually have insight into all this and do that, it has a value. But the moment you're outsourcing it to, 10 different platforms, you lose that ability. So you gain some things and you lose some things.